Gloria, who's over there, and I are delighted to welcome you all here today to celebrate Nick and Jenny's wedding. We're so pleased that the rain gods have so far been kind to us, but I can't promise anything for the rest of the evening, so keep praying is all I can say. The first thing I'd like to do is to thank Tim and Wendy, Jenny's parents, for allowing us to ignore convention, because it's quite usual, as you know, to hold these functions at the bride's parents' residence. So it's really very much appreciated on our part that you've allowed us to do that here today. This Appin Lodge here is a special place for Nick particularly. He was not quite born here, but he's lived here since he was about 2 years old. And it's been a great place for him to be, really, I think. He was brought up here by what he likes to call 3 sets of parents. There was the natural set of parents who he hardly ever saw, who were usually working somewhere and occasionally caught up at the weekends and holidays and things like that. And we did our best when we could, but we were very fortunate to be blessed by having a nanny who has been with us for 25 years and a friend, Sharon, wherever Sharon is. Sharon, over there. So she's partly to blame. But then in particular, Nick's grandparents, Gloria's parents, came to live with us when Nick was about 5 years old. And I think they helped to instill in him a lot of the basic principles in life, and taught him the basics such as how to ride a bike, how to play cards, and latterly, when Gramps was around, how to drink scotch. It's true. Well, whatever the influence is, we're very proud of the outcome and very pleased that he's become the fine young man he is today. So, well, someone, thank you, Mother. No, it wasn't scripted, but she did well, didn't she? We are delighted by Nick's choice of wife, Jenny. I should perhaps say, or Jenny's choice of husband. We've really got to know Jenny remarkably well over the last couple of years. They, as most of you know, they got to know each other in the first year at university, so by now they've got to know each other's foibles pretty well, I think, and that's probably going to stand them in good stead going forward. But we've really got to know and love Jenny and her parents as well over time. But she's so lovely. She's always got a smile on her face. She's great company. And at the end of the day, she's always going to keep Nick's feet on the ground, which is what we want. She's become part of the family, really, over time. And it's just wonderful to have them all here today. So thank you all for being here, or the rest of the family. Just one final point. We're going to be celebrating Nick and Jenny's wedding with champagne in due course, but if I could ask you instead to raise your glasses to the newborn grandchild, Sarah and Charlie and George Oscar, who arrived a couple of days ago. We're absolutely delighted, and he's a great new addition, the new generation to take us all forward, so that's marvellous. So if I could ask you to just raise your glasses in the first instance to Sarah, to Charlie, and to George Oscar.
George Oscar.
Now we'll move on to the more traditional aspects of the speeches now. I'm going to hand over to Tim, who's going to speak on behalf of the bride. And then we'll move on then to one or two anecdotes, sort of best man anecdotes about Nick, which are going to be delivered by, first of all, Jonathan, who's Nick's cousin, and then Nick will be speaking, and then Paul will be finishing up with the funny parts of it. Right. Now, the drinks. Sarah and Charlie, we've done all that?
Yeah.
Good, right. Good.
Well done.
Good.
All right.
Thanks, Tony. Tony thanked Wendy and I for breaking the convention. I would like to thank Tony and Gloria. They've made all this possible. They've made this day and this fantastic surroundings possible. Day that Nick and Jenny were dreaming of and that we're all enjoying. So I would like you, please, to raise your glasses to Tony and Gloria. Thank you.
Tony and Gloria.
Thank you. Yes.
Right, back to tradition. Okay, well, when Wendy and I got hitched, I certainly looked forward to having a family with considerable trepidation. I think Wendy got more bottle than I had, but I was quite nervous about the whole thing. And in '86, Jenny came along and persuaded me and us within a few months that being parents was actually, a lot of fun, a great time and so on and so forth, and not a trial and not a tribulation. And since then, she's just improved, really. As a little girl, she was curious, interested in everything, and particularly interested in people. And this came out in lots of different ways, but she had a great sense of history and how the sort of lives that people lived and so on and so forth. And we used to go to Scotland a lot, and I can remember when she was about 5 or 6, her looking out over a landscape which contained several ruined crofts that had probably been knocked down during the clearances, and she turned to me and said, "Dad, I wish I knew how they'd lived in those days," which I thought was pretty impressive at the time. And she, went seamlessly into being a teenager, and she defied all convention by showing a sort of perverse delight in being very nice. Really very good to be with. She would talk to our friends. She would listen to our music. She never embarrassed us in public. She was a delight to be with. She was good company. And so on and so forth. And as I say, she just got better and better. Now, I hear you saying, this is all very well being smug, Tim, but about the apple of your eye and, when she's in the bosom of the nuclear family and so on and so forth. But, what's really going to matter is what it's like when she gets out in the big wide world. Is she going to cope with the maelstrom that is modern life with extremism and 24-hour news and so on and so forth? And I've got no worries on that score, matey. Because I think there are two pretty good indicators of what a person's going to be like. There's lots of indicators of what a person's going to be like, but two of the first ones, I think, is the quality of the friends that they have. And throughout her teenage and adult life, Jenny's introduced us time and again to really nice young people, people who obviously value her and she obviously values. And a person who can maintain good friendships with good people, I think is on the right route. Another indicator is how she gets on with her workmates. Because you're thrown together with those people, and you're with those people in tedious times, in daunting times, in all that sort of stuff, And Jenny worked for about 3 years in holiday jobs at Keighley Public Library. Now, Keighley is one of those towns, I don't know whether many of you know them, it gets beaten down by every depression and it never gets lifted up by boom times, I wouldn't say it's rough, but I think that they had bouncers at Keighley Public Library before they had bouncers in the pubs in Leeds on a Friday night. And they just kept asking her to come back holiday after holiday, and she worked there, and she got on with the bouncers, and she got all the other people that worked there, and all the little kids that used to run and muck about with the computers and so on and so forth. And then Wendy and I went to visit her in Nottingham, and we saw her at the Rope Walk, which is a sort of pub cafe type place, and she obviously got on really, really well with her workmates there. And as far as I know, done the same at Sage. So that's a pretty good indicator that she's on the right track. So I haven't got a crystal ball, so I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I can only wish her luck. I think she's started out all right. I would like to say, I've forgotten what I'd like to say. That Jenny, we love you dearly. We're embarrassingly proud of you. We're really pleased that you've met such a fine young man as Nick. And having met them for just one night, we're also really delighted that you're marrying into a family who are so welcoming and supportive. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, Nick and Jenny.
Jenny. Right, over to you, John. Put your glass down. Yeah, go on. Yeah, you just got a passing ceremony first. You might want to say.
Having heard so eloquently all about the blushing bride from Tim and Wendy, it seems only fitting at this time that we turn our attention to Nicholas John Henry Stewart and find out exactly what makes him the man he is today. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Nick's obsession with anything to do with sport. How did Nick prepare for his wedding day? 18 holes on the golf course. At Charterhouse, he'd spend his free periods playing football, full-on 90-minute games. If they do bring out the croquet lawn at some point during the weekend, I'd strongly recommend clarifying exactly what Stuart house rules are.
Yes.
But all this aside, and what else is there? Well, they say we're born in the image of our parents. According to this logic, Nick would be confident, intelligent, fiercely competitive, ambitious. Penchant for Sauvignon Blanc, there's no doubt that Nick has had an incredibly fortunate upbringing. Gloria and Tony have worked effortlessly to provide a childhood for their kids that most people could only dream of. But sometimes with Nick, you get the impression that he doesn't appreciate it quite as much as he should. On a holiday to Florida, he was asked exactly what he thought of Disney World, and he thought for a moment and said, well, quite frankly, Mum, I'd rather be down the caravan with Brown and Grounds. I think what this shows is a humility and appreciation of the finer things in life, family, friends and experiences. Our groom is certainly a determined young man. He's unafraid to go into business on his own or with a friend. He'll look any challenge in the eye and take it on. A few years ago, and pre-Jenny I must state, Nick and some pals went to Watergate Bay in Cornwall for the evening. They had some shandies and some envious goading of a young chap who was serenading some ladies around a campfire, and it was time to go home. Nick called a cab and another cab. You get the idea. But then he had an idea. I know, we'll walk home. A few hours later, Nick could be seen being dragged through the Cornish countryside by his two chums. Nonetheless, Nick's courage under pressure, his determination, they remain with him to this day, and they can only be qualities that can be admired. So, there's no doubt that Nick's grandparents had a huge influence on him growing up. They'd look after him during the school holidays and after school. During this time, a pack of playing cards would often emerge. I remember one game of cards in particular, a game of pairs. Nick was on a roll, 7 pairs in a row. Unbelievable. It was only later that someone realised that if you laid on the lounge floor and looked up to the coffee table, you could see the underside. But in all fairness, Nick's laid-back nature, his ability not to judge, his willingness to take on a challenge, his appreciation of life, I think these are all things that stem directly from Cran & Grabs. I'd like at this time, if I may, to raise a toast to absent friends. So Nick was and is a child of the 1980s. His was a childhood of Transformers, Italian 90, Captain Planet, Beatles About, and the Beach Boys. In fact, as he stands before you here and today, it's very easy to forget that he wasn't always on this smartly dressed. I'm just going to
Take your photo.
if you want to file some.
Do you want a parcel?
John, you're also in this.
I know.
Yeah, get that one in it. There you go. Cheers, buddy.
So I've never had a brother growing up, and sometimes I would moan about it. But as I stand before you here and today, I can honestly say that I wouldn't change my relationship with Nick for the world. He's my best friend and the brother that I never had. To Nick and his beautiful wife.
Well done.
So what do you got? I've been welling up to just drink and get away from it. Apologies for that. I'm not quite as good as these guys, I only use cards. But first of all, thank you everybody for being here. It is wonderful to see so many still just about smiling faces. I'll keep it quick because the sun's about to come out. Thank you for coming from all over this country, from all over the world as well. We've had Korea, I believe, the trip was cut short to come back. Has Matt made it?
I just got a call.
But most Neil, Joe and Rachel, I don't know where you are.
Neil's holding the baby.
Oh right, sorry, yeah, keep it down. They've come all the way from New Zealand to join us, and it really appreciated them coming over here and being with us on my wife and I's. But no, as soon as they arrived, we put them to work. I think they had a 40-hour flight, booze-free via Bahrain. It was not a pleasant experience from what I understand. And straight away we had them transporting the alcohol from the top of there to the bottom of that. I don't know if anybody saw them on Facebook, there was a lot of booze to move. So we tied them out, and they've been a huge help to my dad, sorting everything out. So a big thank you to them for coming all the way from New Zealand. I can't go much further in the speech without saying how wonderful my bride looks today. I stand there at the altar and thinking over the last 6.5 years she's taken my breath away a lot of times. That's it, the biscuit. The early stages of Jen and I's relationship weren't exactly classical Shakespearean romance. It did take a while, but luckily Jen was A, patient, and then B, demanding. Persistence as well, but I think there's a large reason that it took a long time was because when we first met, I think it was almost love at first sight, and I was a little bit afraid of what that meant on the second day of university. But I have to say, I've definitely made the right decision. And I can't thank you enough for hanging around for me. I could just list all the adjectives of how wonderful Lara and beautiful and caring and sweet. But I think everybody that knows us and knows me knows exactly how special Jenny is to me. So, Jenny? Quite a few thank yous as well. I really want to thank the ushers for all their fine work today. I was unfortunately in charge of organising them. They got their news over a beer at lunch today, and what they had to do. But Paulie as well, especially, came down last night and helped us drink the Doon Bar. More importantly, found out exactly where everything else is, including the pub. Yeah, thank you guys, it's really appreciated. I want to thank Dad for his speech. It was alright. We'll come to that one. I want to thank John as well. It's some really kind words. He mentioned how important my family is to me, and it really is. And also to Tim, who I think encapsulated exactly why I love Jenny so much. I thought it was a really nice speech. When I first went up to Yorkshire, it was pretty petrifying, to be honest. Tim had been I think unfairly depicted as something of the iron fist of the teachers' union. Unfairly, I have to. So a young upstart from London going up there was it was fairly intimidating, but instantly they made me welcome. And we bonded over beers, curry and football. Perfect. It was a very good first day, and yeah, I think from then it's just got stronger and stronger. We had a memorable visit to watch Arsenal-Liverpool. I think Fred and I got into there as well. Started off, we sent the girls away to Spa or something, I don't know. And Tim and I were sort of there. I think we'd met maybe once or twice before, and we were like, well, what should we do? The pub. So we went to the pub and we drank and we drank. I drank a lot more. Tim at that stage could drink anybody under the table. So he went and enjoyed the game and came back, and I was a bit disappointed with myself because we were supposed to go out for dinner and I was absolutely smashed. Absolutely smashed. And that was it, I had to go to bed. I also made him I made him coffee. Instead of using instant granules, I used filter granules and just stirred it around. I drank it. I cringe to this day, to be honest. But they are, as Tim's words show, they are a wonderfully tight-knit family with Sally as well, and Wendy, of course. But they are a wonderful tight-knit family, and it really is a pleasure to join you guys. And we'll see a lot more of you, I'm sure. As Dad mentioned as well, it's great that you guys let us have the wedding down here. As we mentioned, this means a lot to me. So thank you for that. Here we go. Skipped a bit. I want to thank my mum and dad. As has been mentioned, I've been extremely fortunate in almost every way, I think. 3 sets of parents, fantastic financial support, a place like this to grow up in, which when you're an 8-year-old and you see a ball and you see a big green space, it's not a lot better, to be honest. So they've provided unflinching support throughout 27 years of life. I also want to thank Dad for his wedding planning. Turned into a latter-day Franck. Neil, I'm not sure what his assistant was called. Anyway, you did very well, the both of you. It's place 6, fantastic. I have to say, without my parents, or without my grandparents and Sharon and Ian as well for letting me borrow her so much. Very kind. I'm not sure exactly who I'd be today without them. But one thing I know, I wouldn't be married to the girl of my dreams. We're nearly there.
I'm known as cheesy for nothing.
just got a few small tokens of appreciation for Mum and Wendy and Tim and my dad. I'm just going to leave them there. It's too far to be honest. This is a lot longer than I thought it would be. But yeah, I want to thank my best man, my dad, who's been, he's been incredible considering what this family's gone through the last sort of 8 months or so. It's been a fairly turbulent period, not the easiest, but we're here and we're having a pretty fantastic day. I was surveying it earlier from up there, just didn't want to get bearings, and everyone looked to be smiling and having a good time. The smiles are wearing off as this carries on. But no, he's been a great support for Jen and I throughout all of this. He's been a great friend as well as a dad. But he's always been there for me, and that's the most important thing. Even this morning whilst playing golf, he let me win.
No way.
I did have to sink it 20 foot down the hill, left to right. Came through eventually. So yeah, it's just a fun thank you to each and every one of you, and then I have some things for the bridesmaids who have been absolutely wonderful. I've made you wait for this, girls. They've been there for Jen as constant friends, fantastic support. They got us to church on time, which was huge, because I was pretty nervous. They look absolutely fantastic, every one of them. Can't see every one of them, but they do. I saw them earlier. So I've just got a few thank yous. Should I do this one? Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Sit down.
In alphabetical order so I don't upset anybody. Alex. And Kate. Right, and then Nat. And Sally. Right, I have been prolonging this, mainly because I don't want him to have too long with it. But I'm going to introduce to you Paulie, who has been... Stay there. He's been a wonderful friend since pretty much the first day I met him. Fantastic support. And I figure the better the introduction I give him, the less harmful he'll be to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, the incomparable, ultimate answer to Peter Kay, Mr. Hall.
Before I start, I'd just like to thank Nick for the immense amount of pressure that I'm now under. And just before I start, Nick and Jen, would you mind just coming up and joining me up here, please? Just remember the happy couple on their day. You'll all agree with me that I think Jen looks 1 in a million today.
Right.
Nick, at least you tried. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you stood here slightly scared, nervous or apprehensive, you're either me or you've just married Nick Stewart. For those of you that don't know, I'm Paul, and I've had the absolute pleasure of knowing Nick and Jen for the best part of 7 years now. And while we're only a few weeks away from 7 years, I don't mean it in that sense. I mean that knowing Nick and Jen and being a part of their lives has really and truly enriched my life. It's provided me some of the best moments and best memories of the last 7 years. Well, I say the last 7 years, it's probably more accurately the last 4. The first 3 of which were at uni and the liver was working much harder than the brain. However, having said that, I do believe, I remember correctly, although I'm sure Nick will tell you differently later on, that I was out with Nick in one of Nottingham's finest establishments that served triple vodka and coke for £2 when he first laid eyes on the object of his desire. A stunning beauty with a striking smile, gleaming teeth and a body to die for. So Nick approached his target and through the medium of dance, in the manner that only Nick knows how, proceeded to ask, "May I have this dance?" Well, I turned him down, so he went and danced with James. So, while struggling to think of some university moments that didn't start with a pint and end with a blank, I started to recall the stag do. A lot of you here are probably thinking that is wholly inappropriate for a wedding speech, what with stag do's being associated with sex, drugs, violence, rock and roll, and maybe even dwarves. Well, I'll just clarify that for you. Sex, there was none. Drugs, there was absolutely loads. Paracetamol, Alka-Seltzer, Nurofen, you name it, we needed it the morning after. Rock and roll? Well, walking down the Cornish coast with a crate of Doom Bar on your shoulder, if that's not rock and roll, I don't know what is. Violence? There was none. One very small potential moment when we decided to tell Guy the Formula 1 results after he wouldn't do the washing up. Vettel's on pole for tomorrow, by the way. And finally, just the dwarf. Well, that was a nice idea, but he came up a little short. If you want the full story, I'll be at the bar later. I'll tell you the full story. But anyway, joking aside, this day it's about this lovely couple standing right here. And obviously, while trying to write this speech, I've been thinking about all the times and the moments that I've met Nick and Jen, knowing them. And for me, it's not the big moments that stand out as important or as special. It's the little everyday moments that really show me how special their relationship is. The loving looks, the playful teasing, the stopping to let Jen say hello to the neighbourhood cat even though we're running late. The little gestures, like Jen putting a chocolate on Nick's pillow last night. To the adorable couple working in perfect harmony around the Cornwall kitchen, and to even the real life couple having a little bicker at each other after a few too many games of charades. So it is all these moments that tell me in my heart of hearts that in this backwards world that we live in today, these two are the exception to the rule, the happily ever after, if you will. Oh, sorry, lost my place. Apologies for this. Sorry. So just skip a bit of box, I've dropped the ball here a bit. Just as Nick and Jen start their new life. Oh no, sorry. Oh, the moment's got to me. It's been an emotional day, even the cake's in tears. So anyway, yeah. So here's to love, laughter, the happily ever after. As Nick and Jen start their new life, let's toast the new husband and wife by having a fantastic evening tonight. To Nick and Jen.
Nick and Jen.
Now, if you'd all be so kind as to make your way down to the tent, I'm hungry and I need to eat. Your table numbers are on the carousel. You'll be called up by table number to attend the buffet. After me, obviously. To Nick and Jen.
Nick and Jen.